Welcome. It's so good to have you here. It actually really warms my heart to see so many people here today, and I know others will be joining us. We have our quarterly Boulder Way Forward forum today. We had one 3 months ago. This was actually the July one, but we moved it up just a few days because July, everybody's gone on vacation, it seems. And we'll have another one in October. So it just warms my heart to see your names and know that you care about this work and interested in an update and participating today. If you don't know me, I'm Dr. Susan Madsen. I'm the director of the Utah Women in Leadership Project and also oversee, along with my staff and other folks as well, the Boulder Way Forward. And one of our UWLP goals this year is to continue to ensure that all the work that we do and that we have a piece of elevates the guiding principles of civility and dignity and kindness, connection, respect. We have opened the chat for you to make comments and see other people's comments. And you know this already, but we ask that you do this, your comments in that framework of civility and kindness and all of the things that we've talked about and what I've just described. So welcome, welcome. And just a few comments here about, let me share my screen. So yeah, that was my welcome. And yeah, just want to share my screen and have a few comments about just a reminder of the purpose of the quarterly forums. So these forums, we're planning to have a meaningful opportunity to stay connected to the whole. We know people from counties are joining and spoke advisors and people across the movement. We want you to get inspired, connect with that whole, and leave with some clear ways to deepen your impacts. And so we hope these forums will ensure that everyone gets connected to the same information. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Share some progress, highlight wins. So be thinking of some wins because I have a place where I want you to put some wins. Wins in the county, wins in with partners that are doing work in these 18 areas as well. We want to communicate new resources, convey shifts, answer questions, provide motivation, be a space to answer those questions that maybe have emerged. And so just a reminder, a Boulder Way Forward is the primary initiative of the UWLP at Utah State University. And we serve as the backbone organization of a Boulder Way Forward, which is aims, many of you have this memorized, to help more Utah girls and women and families thrive. And the Utah women and girls really do thrive when their safety, security, health, overall well-being are supported. And when that's supported, they're enabled more to explore and pursue educational, professional, civic, and leadership opportunities aligned with their interests, and to experience strong social or support systems and a deep sense of belonging along the way. And as you know, I'm leading UWLP as part of my faculty research and societal change work, and not going to go through this model, but just wanted to put it up so you can again think of the 5 main categories: education, health and well-being, safety and security, workplace, and community engagement. And then the 18 spokes, areas of focus within each, just a reminder so we can get that whole in our minds. And then of course, we have spoke work, belonging teamwork, and our 29 county coalitions here. We're still seeing an uphill road, right? Still seeing that. So I have an activity to get us started today. So which photo, so think about this, I'll open the poll in just a minute. Which photo best describes your view of the culture right now around ensuring that Utah girls and women are thriving? So I have 5 choices. Maybe I'll show them to you twice. So here's the first one. So I've got clouds today. You know how I bring in bridges sometimes and mountains and different kinds of things. But today it's clouds. So this is the first one. This is the second one. This is the third one. Do you see the direction? I'm watching Deborah and Bree's faces. And I forgot to introduce you two. Sorry about that. So Bree is the associate director, and she's joining, and you probably all know her. And Deborah is the local outreach, the local and oh my gosh, Deborah, give me your title. Sorry about that. We just
Local
changed it.
outreach and resource manager.
Resource manager. We just changed it. I do know your title. So, okay, again, are you with me? Here's A. So, thinking about what is the climate, taking that literally here. Here's B. Here's C. Here's D. You ready for the last one? There we go. So when you think about the climate right now here in the state of Utah or nationally or whatever, these are your choices. You've got them in your mind. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute and pull up the poll and give you a chance to. I'm so interested in this. So here we go. Which photo? Oh, interesting. Keep going. Looks like we have over 70 of you in, so would love to have all of you participate.
Susan, is there a way to show them again? Someone's asking in the chat.
Sure. Sure. Let's share the screen. Okay, here we go. Here's your A. Here's your B. Here's your C. D. And E.
And if you're not seeing the poll, it might be on your screen as a pop-up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, yeah, we've got about 50. We still have about 20. Wait just another 30 seconds and this is interesting. I don't want to give it away too much, but it's a little bit of a mix. We've got some optimistic people, a few optimistic people, really optimistic about the state of affairs right now. I think anybody here is optimistic about what the change that we can make, right? Okay, let's go ahead and stop. I'll end that poll and share the results. And here we go. What do you think? Any comments in the chat? What are you thinking? So we've got a couple of pretty optimistic, like things are good. But a lot of C's and D's. Deborah, Bree, what are your thoughts as you look at these?
I think, there's a lot of interpretation that could go into this when are you seeing the clouds or are you seeing the light through the clouds? And so for me, C was what resonated with me as well, was we're covered in clouds, various clouds that exist right now, but there is light there. We just need to clear away the clouds.
I love it. And Deborah, make a couple comments. Bree, can you be checking the chat and pull out some things that we have there? Deborah?
Yeah, I do think it's all relative. I went to a conference a while ago where a historian said that everybody likes to say that these are unprecedented times, but if we look historically, it's really not, you know? And even with this, we could say the pendulum swings and maybe we've swung a little bit, but that kind of gives me some perspective. But yeah, in the poll, a few at the top, a few at the bottom, but mostly toward the middle bottom, some discouragement, which is why we're here, right? We want to make a difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, I one of the reasons, so my latest book that came out, I chose this particular picture. The editors of the book were like, why did you like, what is this saying? I had to describe it, but it is, and the book before that was kind of the same thing, that you can see some sun And I'm there's some flowers and I love yellow. The yellow flowers are my favorite by far because of the sun. And there's some sun coming through. So even in that C and D, there you could see that sun. I think I'm over on E in just moments here and there, not very long, because I think there's some hope there that we need to continue to rely upon. So hopefully you enjoyed that activity to help us get started. I want to also note that even if there's pushback around diversity and some different things like that, and sometimes it doesn't feel like there's interest in a lot of leaders or a lot of people in having both men and women at the table or diversity in different ways. What I want to be clear about to you is the research has not changed. Sometimes opinions can change, but the research is still absolutely clear that when you have a mix of voices, it still matters. You have, no matter if it's in government or politics or nonprofits or homes and communities and religious environments, it's all the same. The research says that you have improved creativity, so many other things. I just have a few on this slide. Increased innovation, greater social sensitivity, better team decision making, higher and collective intelligence, greater team problem solving, all of these things. I just want you to know, even though opinions changed, the facts are still there, and the facts say it matters. Things will change, and the most complex problems in society benefit the most when there's a whole set of different perspectives, including men and women at the table. And so I just want to put that out there that we're still better together, and we need to believe. So don't go with the wind as it's blowing around and so forth. Just continue to look at the research because it is key. So I'm pretty opinionated about that, but I'm opinionated about the research and what the research says there. So I want you to, in just a minute, I'm first going to ask Deborah and Bree to make some comments. We're going to give you some updates on short and long-term wins. But after they do that, I'm going to ask you, so hold on to those right now, but I'm going to ask you at a certain point to put some things in the chat. And what we want from you is there are still wins, short-term and long-term wins happening with our partners, with our counties. There's a lot of good things happening at our counties with some of our spokes. We want, and our partners, we have lots of partners, especially in some of the spoke areas, continuing to do work. So in just a little bit, we want to hear some wins and we'll read those out. So each quarter, we want to highlight those wins and around each of the 18 spoke areas. I think by October, Bree, you and I talked about this, that we'll maybe look for those ahead of time so we can report some of the other ones as well. So we hope that the tracking we'll do, and we'll use your chat in just a minute as part of our data collection. So make sure you all add to that. But we need to track to help us identify and share the outcomes, the milestones, the signs of impact and change happening in Utah. And as we go along, feel free to ask questions today, as we want to make this feel interactive and responsive. And Bree and Deborah will be checking the questions, especially when I'm talking and can't do that. But maybe just Bree right now, because I'm going to ask Deborah to go ahead and talk. And so there are 7 regions. And the first, there's various regions, and I wanted to just get these up on the slide first. We have these regions are Boulder Way Forward regions, and we have a coordinator that's a regional coordinator for each of these. We have one called East Central, one called 5 County, another North and West. we separated those on purpose. Another one, 6 counties, a southeast, a Wasatch Front North, and a Wasatch Front South. And so these are the counties, and I can put those back up, Deborah, anytime, but I'm going to stop sharing so they can see your face as you provide us just some updates, some wins, what's happening at the county level, especially by region.
Yeah, there honestly are wonderful things happening, with our kind of restructure and refocusing. We have regional coordinators in each of the region who are part-time contractors who are helping to drive things, and it's really been phenomenal to see. So I'll just go through those a little bit and hit some of the highlights. But in the East Central region, which was Daggett, Duchesne, Uinta, Summit, and Wasatch, the tri-counties, including Daggett, Duchesne, and Uinta, they're having monthly lunch and learns. And they're using those as opportunities to connect and build momentum. They're planning a women-focused conference with the chamber. So this is grassroots at its finest. If we look at Wasatch County, they really dove deeply into the perceptions survey. And based on that, they're focusing on domestic violence and working with partners. Summit County has 4 areas of focus, and they're approaching their partners. And it's just amazing because just as the state is different, what's happening in each of these regions is very unique also. 6-county region includes Juab, Millard, Paiute, Sanpete, Sevier, and Wayne. And these are some of our smaller counties, and there are services that provide services to all of these, so that really having separate coalitions was kind of weakening to them, so that they decided that having a combined 6-county coalition would be the most helpful. And so we had a regional virtual meeting, and we're able to talk with them and combine some of them. And we had representatives there from Intermountain and New Horizons who serve all 6 counties and are looking more deeply into that. Intermountain, for example, has done their own needs analysis and has things they're working on. So we want to support things that are already happening. The 5 counties is Beaver, Garfield, Iron, Kane, and Washington. And again, different things are happening everywhere. Garfield, Boulder Town, which sometimes gets confused with our movement, Boulder Way Forward, but Boulder Town passed the first Boulder Way Forward resolution by a town, and they're focusing as a county coalition on healthy relationships, child sexual abuse prevention and resources, and child care.
Deborah, real quick,
yeah,
we have had how many now counties or towns or cities?
12.
12. I love that. And
Yeah.
I know some of the counties, Carbon is one of, I think it was
Carbon County.
They're hoping to get every single city and town. So any of you listening in, just know that you can go to our website. In fact, Bree, if you don't mind putting that link to the page where you can see what cities and towns and counties have become a Boulder Way Forward. They've taken a proclamation or a resolution to do that, and we'll be in the near future communicating directly with those and giving them really some key information. So I wanted to give a pitch there because there's lots of opportunities wherever you're living to approach city council. Isn't that one of the best? It's city or county council people that take it on and really get it passed.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that, Susan. And that is something where we're hearing more talk now that some of the elections are over, that people are discussing that more, passing Boulder Way Forward resolutions. But back to the 5 counties, there's a new partner there. Reach Survivors covers Kane and Garfield counties for domestic violence, and so they've come on as a partner. In Iron County, Sandstone Psychology has become involved. They're focusing a lot on the rural counties. And in Washington County, we have a great partnership with the Women's Influence Network with WIN. And in June, with Father's Day and with it being male allyship as our focus for the awareness campaign this month, they had an event where they had fathers and daughters come and talk about how fathers were allies to their daughters, and just what
I
a
love that.
wonderful partnership, and a reminder that the monthly awareness campaigns are still going. You know, there are still things that are moving. The North and West region, I'm not following your slide specifically, Susan, but the North and West region is Box Elder, Cache, Rich, and Tooele. And there, in Box Elder, they've partnered with the Box Elder Interagency Council. So again, elevating, getting involved in things that are already happening. In Cache County, they have monthly education sessions on topics with a speaker, and they're working on a community event. In Tooele, they're looking at an in-person event to help involve more people in the county, and are looking at mapping. Our Southeast region is Carbon, Emery, Grand, and San Juan. And Susan, as you mentioned, I was going to highlight that as well. Carbon County, their goal is to have Build Our Way Forward resolutions passed in all their cities or towns, and they're about halfway there, I think. Emery County is looking forward to having representation at their county fair. And in May, they focused on the awareness campaigns, and they've been really phenomenal at having monthly meetings with partners coming and presenting about the awareness campaigns. In
They've been
Grand
doing
County,
that for 3 years.
yes.
I just feel so grateful for our leaders and supporters there in Emory County.
Yeah. And in Grand County, we had a virtual meeting just last week where we went over the results of the perceptions survey and kind of how that could guide some of the efforts there, and had some wonderful partners who came. So we're working on connecting more with partners there. And in San Juan County, they had a phenomenal event with partners and with Susan Madsen and with Elizabeth Smart in January. And their focus for the year, and they're planning on having a follow-up event next year, is on decreasing violence against women and children. And we have a new social media page that covers Grand and San Juan counties to help get the message out about things that are happening in those counties. And then the last ones are the Wasatch Front. North and South, our largest counties. Wasatch Front North, Davis County is working on planning an event with a partner highlighting mental health, and we're partnering on that event. In Weber County, the co-leads there got their coalition together, and they voted, and they're focusing on 3 of the spokes: health, finance, and community engagement. And we're looking at when a good time would be to have a partnered event there. And Morgan, we met, and the greatest need there is childcare. And so they're meeting with their commissioners and really focusing on that. Wasatch Front South covers Utah County and Salt Lake counties, our 2 largest counties. And interestingly enough, they are both either combining or establishing nonprofits so that it can be sustainable. In Utah County, they combined with the Utah Valley Women Leadership Collaborative that was already established as a nonprofit, but felt that a lot of the resources were divided between the 2. So by bringing them together, they're excited to be able to accomplish more, and are looking at a community event. And Salt Lake County, the leaders there wanted to be sure that this was something that continued long term, that their efforts for the past couple of years didn't ever come to an end. So they've established a nonprofit, and we're figuring out how that's going to work with Build Our Way Forward and the organization and structure. And just in June, we had our first Build Our Way Forward. Sorry, that I'm looking at your side. And just in June, we had our first Build Our Way Forward quarterly blog for the region. So you can go to that under resources, see the blog, and read about each of the counties. But as the slide says, Build Our Way Forward movement-wide awareness campaigns, these are continuing. We have a schedule for throughout the year. June, as I mentioned, is male allyship month. And so just elevating fathers. How can fathers be allies to their daughters, but also just how can men be better allies? And so we're posting once a week on our social media about that, and many of the counties are having specific events related to that in June. We don't have.
And we'd love to have them repost, make comments, move those along, even, somehow get those so people in their own counties or statewide, anybody will take a look at those and know what's going on.
Yeah, and then in August, we're highlighting the education awareness. With back to school, it's a good time to focus on education, the importance of that, even simple things like attendance at school.
Absenteeism is a real problem here in
Yeah.
Utah, and it's really started with the pandemic and hasn't gone back yet. So, and there's such research that's absolutely linked to good attendance at school and learning outcomes. So, well,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and if I can share my screen for just a minute, Susan, I wanted to show what's available for each county. We took the results of the perception survey and we made a slide deck. So here I just have pulled up Salt Lake County, but on every county's webpage, there's a county survey data button. And that takes you to the slide deck. And we have a individual slide deck for most counties. If we didn't have enough data and needed to combine it, we did. But we have a PDF that gives a background for our fall survey, and it shows how many participated overall and how many participated in this county. And the surveys use the representative sample that was done by Qualtrics so that they didn't have any bias. So in Salt Lake County, which many of you are from Salt Lake County, we had 613 participants. It was on a scale of 1 to 7. And we had the questions. So I'm just going to show you a few of them just to give you an idea, because we hope that you'll use this. We had a volunteer help us on this, a lot of resource into creating these. So
Give
we
her
hope
a shout out. Do you remember her name, Maddie?
Maddie, yeah. Yeah, amazing volunteer. And so if we just look at a couple of the slides under education, we see that in Salt Lake County, 70% of representatives are aware of resources that can help them achieve financial security. So that's great, but room for improvement, right? 59% have utilized resources to help them with financial security. 94% believe it's valuable to understand personal finances. But we have these for each of the spokes. There was a total of 83 questions. So I'm going to scroll down to,
That was a big project.
it was
Thank
huge.
you.
It was huge. If we scroll down to safety and security, I just wanted to look at a couple of these slides as well, because a lot of people have interest around this area. In Salt Lake County, 45% of respondents think child sexual abuse is a problem in their immediate community. And we can see over here in Salt Lake, it was 4.21 was the average response compared to the state, 4.09. So Salt Lake County is a little higher, but 4, that's still in this don't really know range. And we know that it's a problem in every community. So even in Salt Lake, which may be more educated, we still have issues with that. 88% of respondents think that it's preventable. So that's great news. They just don't really think it's a problem. And a
In
similar
their own
question
community.
in their
Or
own
like
community. Yeah.
someplace else. Yeah.
And 49% think that it's more prevalent in Utah than the national average, but most don't really know. So we have these questions for each of the 18 spokes. And so if you're with an organization that relates to each of those, or if you're just interested in how your county responded, would encourage you to go to the county page, to that very first button, to be able to drill in and see what the perceptions are across Utah.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of good information and we just have to know what's happening to be able to move things forward and be as effective and efficient as possible. So Bree, love to have you now. Deborah led right into this, right? And so I'd love to have you take over and move forward on what's happening with the metrics.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. So as Deborah mentioned, we've got all of our data out from our 2025 fall survey, and it is digestible by county, but you can even dive further into looking at the perceptions across Utah in each of these 18 areas. So I'm going to just walk through real quick how you can access and spend some time taking a deeper look at these, the perceptions and understanding in these areas. So let me share my screen real quick. And on our data dashboard page, which Susan, I believe, just had up, we have 2 dashboards, as you may know, for each of these areas of focus, and one being the perception data that we're talking about now, and the other being goals that we are measuring across this 7-year movement of a bolder way forward. And we're currently updating all of those goals to reflect the 2025 data that's just been released from many sources. So those will be shared in a later webinar. But for now, let's look at the Utahns' perception. So if you want to look at any of this fall survey data on a deeper level, just go to the Utahns' perceptions dashboard. And I've got the child care and pre-K programs pulled up here. As you're looking at our graphics, you can hover over any of the visuals to see the actual data points. So for example, I'm looking here at the survey item role, which tells us that government has a role in addressing childcare in Utah. And you can see the year and the mean, the statistical mean across time, and then where our goal is. You can filter if you want to just look at one question. You can uncheck the others so that it's a bit easier to navigate and then look at the data that way. Up here is just the 2025 data, so it's broken down so we can see the percentage of agreement levels across that 7-point scale that Deborah referenced. A piece of a resource that not many people are aware of is that you can filter by multiple demographics at the same time. So if I wanted to look at what do men in Beaver County,
You're going to be enough?
I don't know.
I
Yeah,
don't
if
know.
it's on here, there's
Oh.
enough. If it's on here,
Okay.
there's enough. So there are some where there wouldn't be. But I can look at just their perceptions here, and you can see how those colors shifted immediately because there's a different level of awareness, understanding, and perceptions. So you can select multiple demographics to take a deeper dive. And if you were looking to say like, well, what do married couples think about childcare, you could go through and look at that data as well. So this is just a really useful feature that not many people utilize. And I would highly suggest if you're from one of our partner organizations and you're from a local entity and you want to look at a specific subset of the demographic to utilize these and see how religion, race, marital status, income, gender, education, the region or the county, whether someone has children or not, and their age can impact Utahns' perceptions in these areas.
Thank you so much. And
You're welcome.
I think in the next month, 4 to 6 weeks, you'll have all the other metrics. So we'll be totally done with updating those as well. So now it's your turn. There's one other section, but I'm going to do this later. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the new research that's come out because I have worked personally on a lot of that and want to share some depth. But before we do that, I would like to have you in the chat highlight some of the short-term, long-term, any wins, as I mentioned before, of the county work they're doing. I know Deborah talked about that a little bit, but I'm sure there's other elements, but also partner work and what's happening. So let's let you start, and then I'll read the ones that come up. Help us with that. Bree and Deborah, do you see any?
Yeah, there's a few that were previously added when we started sharing that we wanted to collect them. So I'll highlight one from Sarah Stone. And that's on May 11th, Utah participated in a national day of action called Day Without Childcare to draw attention to the importance of early years and those who care for them and the need for sustained investment. So nearly 1,000 people participated across the state of Utah. Great
I
win.
love it.
And
So,
tonight, Emory County is having a partner event with One Direction Prevention Coalition, and they're having a family fun night.
I love that. I love that. So, Audrey, good to see your name there. Consider encouraging coaches to incorporate coaching boys into men. I like that resource as well. It looks like Wendy's telling us the San Juan School District. It's moving. Where was I? Partnered with Sabria. And Sabria, one of their efforts, they've been a good partner through the years, for many, many years, in the child sexual abuse and then adults healing from child sexual abuse, prevention of child sexual abuse. And so it looks like San Juan School District is partnering with them and to create a post-prevention flyers in all of their student restrooms. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Absolutely. What else are you seeing, Deborah?
Some optimism from the recent primary election, just where Utahns are showing that they want different leadership.
Oh,
So even so, some people shifting and saying that they want change. It's a win.
I love that. And by the way, there are some really good leaders that are supportive of a bolder way forward in UWLP. There are many that we'd like to see switched out, but there are some really great leaders who care about this that are in these elected positions and with our partners as well. What else is popping up that we want to highlight? I know some of you can see all of them. Let's see.
The Health
Yeah.
Spoke is really working to increase mammogram rates and partnering with the U of U and IHC and the Boob Bus in Uinta and Wendover.
If you haven't heard, there is a boob bus. And Deborah, what does that do?
It travels to do mammograms.
I love it. I love it. And wasn't it the Uinta Basin area that really got that started several months ago?
Or
in their area?
It's traveling out there and to Wendover, which are often missed. They don't have services otherwise.
Yeah. And I love the collaboration on menopause, perimenopause, menopause education and care, really between Intermountain and University of Utah. And I love that Boulder Way Forward has been a vehicle of connecting in that space. And we're seeing more elevation of that topic. When we started Boulder Way Forward, it wasn't talked about before, but it's come out in movies and different places, and awareness has moved forward. Even at my family reunion over the weekend, I had conversations about perimenopause and the difference between perimenopause and menopause as well. Bree, are you seeing?
Yeah, several about some of our amazing partner organizations, the Rape Recovery Center presenting at the Salt Lake County Council about the importance of preventing violence and safety of women and increasing the safety of women. But a great positive I think I see right here is that UVU started a Women for UVU club to create a space to support women at UVU this year. As we all know, the centers were shut down previously, but they have 300 members and it's only growing. So it's great to see that there are still spaces being created for women to gather and support one another.
And I love the comment. Is this Jared? I stepped out of my comfort zone.
Richard.
Richard. There's a J. Yeah. Okay, Richard. Okay, thank you. I stepped out of my comfort zone to create an all-women golf team. And that comes, there's a lot of companies that you have to be careful of what you're doing. So thank you. Created an all-women golf team hosted by my department leadership. I am tired of not being invited to important network activities as a leader. I love that. There's others too, and I think most of you, they've copied most of them, everyone. Thank you for that. And we'll hope the next time to get an email out and get some wins from you. But I still think this is good. to have you give us wins on the spur of the moment. One other state appropriations achieved through single mothers work group here in the Boulder Way Forward the last 2 years for family law advancements and assessing and rebuilding the state Office of Recovery Services for Child Support Recovery and Child Care. That's a big mouthful, but I think I got it. And the quarterly meetings still with a single mother statewide coalition partners with Boulder Way Board. Oh my gosh, so many good things. So I'm going to shift us back to, and if you are still thinking of things, put them in the chat because we're going to save the chat and grab these for our records as well. So that chat will be in our records. So I want to now give you a little bit of an update on some research. You know that the research is the foundation of what we do at the Utah Women in Leadership Project, and therefore our main initiative, which is the Boulder Way Forward, which we're talking about today, we want everything based on research, and metrics help us. All the things that we're doing help us. So let me share my screen and give you a little update. There's been a number of research releases, but the last three I wanted to highlight, just making sure. I have wanted this research snapshot written for so many years, so appreciative that we have got this out of New American Women, which includes immigrants and refugees. If you haven't read through this, it takes you a good maybe half hour, 45 minutes, but it's worth we have some definitions, what's happening, to just learn a little bit more. These are communities that have been hard hit in the last year or two. Funding has been taken and so forth. And we have a lot of refugees here in the state of Utah, and the experiences of men and women are different. And we wanted to highlight that. The second one I want to highlight is a few months ago, we released an updated synopsis, is what it's called The Current Status of Utah Women and Girls. And excuse me, I feel a cough coming, so one of you might have to take over. Well, let me get a drink real quick. In this particular one, we have a report. I'm not going to show it to you right now because our time is moving along. But what I wanted to highlight, it's probably about 30 pages. But the cool thing about this particular report is that it's got a bit of a paragraph. A few of them have more, but in a table. So this is easy. So you can go by Boulder Way Forward category, education, safety and security, health, all of those. And if you want to get a taste of the research, this is the place to go. So you don't even have to read the whole report, although I would always say read the whole report because it's so interesting. But you can go to this one and say, what are the latest stats on safety and security? You can get the latest information on child sexual abuse, domestic violence, child or sexual assault, and other like poverty and homelessness. And we'll put just a little paragraph in there. So if you're giving a presentation or you're sending an email to someone, one of your county council members or county commissioners, and you just want one paragraph to help highlight where we're at today, we've got all of this in this report. So, and we've also not just pulled in our own reports, but the Wallet Hub will integrate, we're number this, we're following here on this source. So we bring together sources. So just know that this is a gold mine. This report is a gold mine and can help you if you're giving presentations, prep you by just having little paragraphs that you can take or understand yourself. And then, of course, there's lots of references on where we get that information. So I wanted to highlight this. And then the last one, and then I want to also tell you about a new study. The last one is it's a report that I did this myself. And I did a lot of work, and have been doing some work for a couple of years where I've been pulling together data. And I'm going to actually show you the report. It came out, I think, just last week, maybe just a week ago. I think it was on the 23rd that it came out. It is. Let me just warn you, it's a bit of a monster of a report, but I felt like it, I have felt that pull, that calling, whatever we may call it. To me, I call it a calling. I have a bigger calling, but I also have little callings that I need to do this, that I needed to find a way to put together a deep report, even though everybody might not read it, to help Utah understand how and why we are higher than the nation in terms of sexual violence. And people ask that. This is a deep report, but I'll tell you, it is. Even I made my husband read it, and he's like, "Wow, I get it now." So if you will look on this, this is the picture I chose. It's called The Roots of Sexual Violence in Utah Framework for Understanding Harm. And I actually walk through and create this model. So similar models, there's many of them out there in the world. What I did was take things from lots of different models to create what we most want to focus on here in the state of Utah, and then create all of these elements within these 5 tiers. So we have a pyramid here. Again, there's pyramids and other things, but this is unique to Utah. So I don't want to give too much information because we're running out of time here. But what I have done is taken literature. I have reviewed hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies and articles that link together things. So sometimes we say, okay, we have sexual assault issues, and many of these things, there's some overlap with domestic violence. What this shows is where it comes from. So everybody here won't necessarily do sexual assault, but you're not in these spaces unless there's attitudes and beliefs and verbal expressions. And so this piece really goes through and proves with extensive literature and studies what is happening here in this attitudes and beliefs and how it connects to verbal expressions, how it connects them to coercion and harassment, and then sexual assault and lethal violence. So I'm pretty blunt in this piece. Can I just say pretty blunt in this piece to help us understand? First of all, if we still think that it's just out there and a few people doing it, and maybe we really don't have a problem, we're not going to change. And can I say this is unacceptable? Our rates are unacceptable to me. And as I say on many occasions, why are we not moving heaven and earth to protect our children and women and families? And so this is a attempt to, if we really care about this, let's understand, so then we can design better interventions, we call them in my field, to help. So that's more than I was going to say, but I needed to say it. And let me go into one other thing. And we're pushing. Can you see that now? Hopefully. No, you can't see that. Hold on. I had a few issues there. There we go. Are you good now?
Yep.
All right. So those were the 3 things I wanted to talk about, but I also want to lead us as we're kind of wrapping up. I have a team, and if I had time, I'd list all their names, but there's 12 of us, and thank you. So many volunteers who have some experience in qualitative research have stepped forward to be qualitative researchers. Our goal is to interview 100 Utah women from any religion that have had positive or negative experiences or in between. And it's called Building Faith Communities Where Women in Crisis Find Safety, Support, and Belonging. So the purpose of this in-depth qualitative study is to examine how faith communities influence the experiences of women who are navigating crisis, including sexual assault, domestic violence, divorce, and other things. So it specifically seeks to identify the congregational characteristics, the cultural norms, the leadership practices, theology, the theological messages that function as protective factors and conversely risk factors for women's safety, support, belonging, and well-being. So it doesn't just have to be sexual assault, domestic violence, and divorce, but there's other kinds of trauma and challenges. So by documenting both supportive and harmful congregational dynamics, our research aims to generate insights that can help faith communities strengthen their capacity to respond to women in crisis in trauma-informed, inclusive, and healing-centered ways. This is a study I've been felt that I've needed to do for several years. And we have about 70 women that have signed up. We've done about 21 interviews and have many others scheduled, but we still need women to sign up to be part of this study. And you can see, you can look on maybe we'll do a follow-up email with you with a link as well. But be thinking of people that you know that you can refer. And if you are a woman in this or know women, like I said, please sign up to be interviewed for this. And we'll do 100 is my goal to really get, and that's a lot of data, by the way, and we'll be analyzing and hopefully creating powerful information, powerful documents to really help faith-based leaders do better in this area. Now, I also want to highlight some upcoming research. We have hot on off the presses here, one coming out in a week on K through 12 women leaders, where we're at. It's been a number of years since we've done that. Also, the power of education, how higher education shapes Utah workplaces. Another one on the power of education, on how it influences lives. And we have some volunteers right now working on the status of women leaders in higher education. We haven't done an update for many years. You can also see one on suicide will be coming out. We have a wonderful team up at Utah State University working on disabilities among Utah women. We're also partnering with the Women's Leadership Institute and city journals on Utah companies championing women. Also, our research manager, Yvette Young, is working on getting some data from the U.S. Census and USHE and the what's called IPEDS on where are we at right now on educational attainment and graduation. And then Julie Valentine's working on an update on sexual assault. There's others as well, but really wanted to put those out there. We're still moving forward. We're still doing the research. We're still getting it out, and it's being utilized. We are told all of the time, whether it's grants for nonprofits or higher education, that people are reading and using it to move things forward. Bree, I was going to I have a few quotes to end us, but just a few comments and a reminder from you on that Take Action page. It is right on our website, easy to navigate, easy to get there. A few comments. I think it's a lot of stuff, right?
Mhm.
But if you have one piece, you can make a difference. You can look up what to do. Comments.
Yeah. And I think this is, the next step. So you find one of these 18 areas of interest, or areas of focus that you're interested in, or you look at your county data and you say, wow, this is a real concern for our county. What can I do? And so that Take Action page is going to provide you by category. You'll see for each spoke, and then a few additional topics as well. Calls to action for individuals, and then for organizations or groups to help move the needle. Things you can do individually, easily within your community, within your family, within your neighborhood, within your church organization, to make a difference. And it is through these small actions and all of us doing them that we will see things start to shift, and that we'll see those metrics move. If we don't have people taking these calls to action and implementing them statewide, we won't, it will take decades. So we need to start moving. And this Take Action page is the place to pick something. And I challenge everyone to go pick something today, whether that's something to help increase male allyship, or help with childcare or domestic violence that we've talked about today. Pick something and implement that in your life.
And some of these Take Action are pretty easy.
Yes.
Like reach out to 3 people or text people or whatever, and make sure they know about research or that it's important to do that. I'm looking at the comments, and Susan, I see your comment about loneliness. Yeah, we haven't had any data out there. That would need to be a new study, which we would love to have another organization take the lead for that, because we're a little bit of a lighter team than we were a little bit ago, but that's a really good insight. I appreciate that. There's some other resources, and what we'll do is send a follow-up email and put some links and resources there. But it's time to end, so I'm going to give you a couple. You know how I always like to give you a couple of quotes to end. And these are a few ones I haven't used with this group for a while. And some of these are to remind myself. Can I just say this? Gandhi once said, "Silence becomes cowardice when occasion demands speaking out and acting accordingly." So if you're in Boulder Way Forward, you're speaking out. So thank you for that. But that's a good quote. Here's another one I appreciate. Each time a person stands up for an idea or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, she sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance. And then finally, and some of you have seen this, but I'm a big fan of Eleanor Roosevelt, so I'm going to end with a couple of my favorite quotes from her. Do what you feel in your heart to be right, for you'll be criticized anyway. You wouldn't worry so much about what others think of you if you realized how seldom they do. And then for the Take Action that Bree just talked about, maybe that's a good segue to this last one. Eleanor Roosevelt once said, "Do one thing every day that scares you." So we thank each of you for joining today. We thank you for the work you're doing. We thank you for being so interested and inspired and resilient, right? No matter what happens. And I want to give a special thanks to Bree and Deborah and other members of my team for hanging there in there and shifting. We've done a lot of shifts, but we know the work that we do needs to continue for the well-being of women, girls, and our families here in the state of Utah.